everyone. I thought I'd do a quick question and answer and kind of discuss my experience on my Shakedown hike up at the Delaware Water Gap. Okay, so I'll start with the first question. Yes, I did know that they were coyotes. I did try to put it in the first frame where you were hearing the sounds of coyotes, but I worked with dogs for 25 years. I owned a dog grooming business, was a vet technician, and I competed in dog obedience. So canines were my love and work for 25 years in different jobs that I had. Sometimes I'm kind of callous, all canines to me are dogs. So I had just woken up, so I just kind of was like, yeah, there were dogs back there. I was just being authentic. I had just kind of woke up, my hair was in a rat's nest, and just didn't care. How did I filter water? This was a good one because I did realize you didn't see the filter, and I just kind of assumed everybody knew what these bottles were. I don't know why I assumed that, because I just learned what they were back in September. I have had 36 years of hiking and camping experience, but I didn't do anything the right way. I wore jeans, I wore cotton. I basically carried a backpack that was more like a school backpack for all those years, no matter how long I was going for. I really, just when I joined an outdoor group, did I really learn the lingo and that there were easier, correct ways to do it. But, you know, when I was younger, it didn't really matter to me. We had a great time. I never really had a bad experience. So anyway, back to the filter. I was using a water to go bottle, and I realized I just showed you this part of it. You know, when I scooped the water and I showed you how clear, I did tell you what the bottle was, but I didn't show you this part. And this is basically very similar to a Sawyer or a platypus filter, but the difference is it just goes on the top of your bottle. You fill it with water, you turn it upside down for a couple minutes, and then you just drink it straight out of the bottle. No squeezing, no. You just drink right through it. So I've been using this for 6 months. Absolutely adore this bottle. It is heavier than a Smart Water bottle because it does have the filter on it and it's Nalgene, but it's pretty light. So I have considered it just for ease and laziness to bring it, and that's why I brought it on my Shakedown hike. Did Miley need booties? No, Miley did not need booties. Miley was conditioned for, and her pads hardened up. Dogs don't really need booties. The only time really a dog might need booties if they don't get out enough. Their pads aren't hardened. If they have sensitive pads, they can just be just like us. They can kind of have pads that crack, and maybe due to breed, how much moisture they have, oils on their skin, that kind of thing, allergies, that kind of thing. So she is allowed to dig in the chicken yard, so she digs holes right through driveway stone. Her paws are so tough. She's a beagle. Believe it or not, as princessy as she can get and anxiety driven, beagles are tough, double-coated breeds. They aren't a foo-foo dog just because they're smaller in stature. They are a tough breed. She's kind of had a hard go of it. I didn't get her till she was 5 months old. She lived in a crate. And a troll left a comment on, why do people insist on torturing dogs on this trail? It's not torture. It's not torture to embrace the suck. Sometimes we don't want to be wet. Sometimes we don't want to walk. Sometimes, like, she was very impatient on day 2. It wasn't that she was tired. What her problem was is she kept walking under my feet because she was darting around, and she wanted to just be free. I don't make the leash laws. The counties, states make leash laws. So that's what I have to abide by, the 6-foot leash. When I can let her off lead and I can really kind of keep an eye on her, I do let her off lead, and that's what her preference is. So she was more fussing and dragging because she couldn't do what she wanted to do, and she was bored. She was bored. She gets bored walking in a straight line over rocks the same way we do. Did I like my sleep system? Yes. it was wonderful. Yes, that pad was amazing. And everything worked together. I would say the only thing is my back was a little cool because I didn't have the straps around the pad. And even if I had remembered to bring them, which I didn't, but even if I had remembered to bring them, Miley's preference isn't to stay in a separate blanket. Her preference is to cuddle next to me. So she kind of just shares. So we had her quilt and my quilt at times, but every time she'd stand up, her quilt would just fall to the side. And yes, it did snap into a sleeping bag. No, she will not stay in a sleeping bag. That's not going to happen. Was I afraid out there alone? No, I was not afraid out there alone. And yes, was I surprised? Yes. I have been surprised every time I've gone since last September. 3 weeks after my husband died, I went on a section hike with my outdoor club. And I met a woman who, she was just out there killing it. She was in other countries. She was hiking alone, and I asked her, "Aren't you afraid?" I said, "I'm afraid." And I think I was afraid because I had always had someone to camp, backpack, and hike with. So I never really had to go alone. So I just had never experienced it. So I just assumed I would have been afraid. Well, she was out there, and from that moment on, I was really inspired by her. So I ended up, I think within a week after that, planning my own trip to do on my own. And a girlfriend ended up coming with me, but I have since been camping and backpacking on my own. And no, I really haven't been afraid at all. Why didn't I just stay in the tent if it was warmer? Well, because you shouldn't really lay in one position for that many hours. It was dark at 5 o'clock at night. So if, you think about how many hours that would have been till morning, that's not good for you. You need to be up, you need to be moving around, and particularly if it's cold. I don't really want to be sleeping more than 7 hours really in the cold like that. I want to make sure that I get up and I get moving again. Okay, so were you cold? No. I really wasn't. Was it cold? Yes. And was I experiencing cold? Yeah, but my shiver response never even clicked in once. And on day 2, when I was walking, I actually was starting to sweat. And I don't like to sweat because it's not really good to get wet in that way. And then that's where your chill response will start. So a lot of times I'll take a break. I'll either take off a layer or do something like that. But we were so far into the hike when I started to sweat and Miley was kind of just over it. Her fun meter had peaked. And so I was ready to hike back anyway. So, yeah. So no, I really wasn't cold. Really wasn't cold. It worked out really well. Am I a screwball? No. I think that was probably a troll comment, but I don't know if it kind of feeds into the dumb blonde. What are the other stereotypes? If you're happy, you're airy. You have air in your head. You don't know what you're doing, and that is just the furthest from the truth. I had no problem getting straight A's in college. I research everything. I know what I'm doing. Nobody survives at 10 degrees out there alone with coyotes carrying on for hours if they didn't educate themselves and they don't know what they're doing and they don't have the confidence to do that. So I don't fit any of those stereotypes. But I am very happy. I am very off the cuff. I don't really care what people think of me in the sense of worrying about stuff like that. I actually think it's funny when they say stuff like that. It kind of amuses me because if you don't have anything better to do than to watch people's videos and then call them names, I feel that maybe you're a person that's been hurt in life and maybe we should just understand you. Do you get bored when it gets dark so early? Yes, I get very bored. I am somebody who likes to multitask, research things, puzzle things. be challenged. So the waiting around to go to bed was a little bit challenging for me and will always be challenging. And I do worry about boredom on the trail. That is one of my fears, that boredom could be something, boredom and diet could take me off the trail. They are the two main things. The mental game, I don't think that will, as far as going from A to B. I am very much a finisher and I get things done. And so, but yeah, I do get bored, and that's where I decided to build the fire. I knew that it wasn't going to be able to heat that stone house. It was freezing in there. I just kind of wanted the challenge of building that fire because I was shocked how nothing would light, the Zippos would not work at all. So it was kind of like challenge accepted, and I made the fire to occupy my time. In the summer, it's easier because you can be out looking at the stars. You can walk around camp. You can do all kinds of stuff like that. Oh, butane. This is just a comment I wanted to make. Somebody had made a really thoughtful comment about how butane works and why I was probably able to light that canister. And if you're interested, I would definitely scroll down in the comments under, I believe it was, I don't know, maybe it was part 1, but if you scroll down, look that up, because that was really a thoughtful comment. I don't really understand the science behind gases and how they work in the cold, and it is a good thing to know. I'm not really worried about it. I've been building fires for 30 years, so I'm not worried about that. But mainly, I probably won't be building fires out there. Almost every thru-hiker I've talked to said they never built fires after like the first week, where the novelty wore off. They're just too tired. They get into camp and they want to face plant. So eat and face plant. And that's pretty much what they do. So, and as far as cooking goes, I am a big cold soaker. So I can eat things hot or cold. If it doesn't light, it doesn't light. I just cold soak it. I'm getting a lot of comments about channel promotion. I've just been deleting them because it's not something that I really want part of my channel. It's not a business. It's a personal vlog for me. If you notice, I answer every comment I can get to because it's about the journey for me. This is very personal to me, and it's about sharing ideas, about helping people the way they've helped me with their vlogs to know what gear to bring, what's your experience, how did your hikes go, and it just builds excitement for you and knowledge. So it's not really about channel promotion. I mean, 1,000 subscribers in 3 weeks. I can't even believe it. That's wonderful, and everybody's been so kind and reaching out and giving me tips and helping me. Wonderful. It's been wonderful, but I don't need promotion, so it's not a thing. Why didn't I wait for warmer temperatures? Because I wanted to be challenged. That just is the case. I'm leaving at the end of March, so yeah, there's gonna be nights where it can be cold, and in the Smokies, I know that bad weather can happen till the end of May, traditionally. But I wanted to challenge myself. I had never camped. The lowest I camped was back in November, and I camped to 28 degrees. But I had never gone this cold before, and I wanted the challenge. If I was going to do a shakedown hike, I wanted to build that confidence with me in a safe way where I hovered close to the Mohican Outdoor Center. It's a perfect place to do a shakedown hike because you can loop it around through the swamp trail. Then there's another trail that comes in right by their visitor center. Where I was getting water is very close to their visitor center. So it's perfect. It's perfect. So I always felt safe. Where I camped was probably 3/4 of a mile from the visitor center. And one of the employees said that she would be staying in a cabin close to the visitor center. I don't know exactly where it was, but I knew that there was help if I needed it. And I walked around it a lot because I had all that time after it got dark with my headlamp to get the lay of the land. So, we should all learn something from Christopher's death, and my heart goes out to everybody who loved him, knew him, and the hiker community, because what a loss. And if someone that experienced, it could happen to that person, then it can definitely happen to me. So I don't want his passing to not be something I learn from. And so I knew in 10-degree weather with that kind of ice and snow to stay, you know, when you're solo hiking, close enough that you could get help if you needed it. Okay, so now back to the hike. How did it go? It obviously, from my answers to these questions, it went great. I was absolutely shocked at my pack weight. I was absolutely shocked. I was sure that was coming in at 24, 25 pounds. So I was really surprised with the food in it, and all it was missing was water. It had fuel, so it wasn't even at base weight. And so whatever I carry for water, and that had my luxury, now named Gwen, chair, because she's luxurious and I just love her to death. And so I was very grateful to have that chair. So anybody thinking about a chair, think hard about it, because you can always send it back if you don't want to carry it. The sleep system, it was wonderful combined. It was able to take me lower than the 15 degrees that my quilt was rated. I get what people are saying about the quilts being drafty. They are. They are. It is untrue that they work better. They don't. Being surrounded by a bag, when you turn, you never get those drafts in at you. A quilt you're going to. Let's face it. It doesn't matter what straps you put, unless you put a seam there, you're going to get drafts as you move. So that's just part of it. My tent is drafty. It's a glorified tarp. I loved my tent. The tent just went up so easy. I never fussed with it. I put like everybody suggested, I put the stakes right next to the base of the tarp, brought that tent down to the ground, the outer tarp, and it worked great. I never fussed with it. It was wonderful. So, and I felt no less safe, or I don't know, less confined, I guess, as I did in my double wall tent. I didn't this trip have condensation issues, but let's remember how cold it was, and anything hitting that atmosphere was freezing immediately. So anything on the tent froze. So it wasn't dripping, it wasn't an issue, and when I packed the tent, it wasn't crinkly. I just didn't have condensation issues this time. But that doesn't mean I won't the next time. That's just the nature of single wall tents and something I have to put up with. And I am bringing a microfiber towel to deal with that. So I'm not worried about that. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I learned on the hike. Oh yes, a big thing. The backpack saga continued, but not for the reasons I thought. Obviously you saw that pack. The problem with that pack, it's not a Thru-hiker's pack. No matter how I would stuff it, my quilt and everything, it would just repuff. It was a pain to compress it down. So and then when you would compress it down, you couldn't use any of the pockets. So you saw on the scale how wonky and long. It reminded me of a Dr. Seuss kind of look when it was on that scale. Like, it just looked wonky, because once you stuff it with all the things you need on a thru hike, the brain doesn't fit on it anymore. It goes out sideways, and then the brain is too narrow. So the brain constantly rides side by side, and it does not matter how much you pull down those clips. So that really is a shorter expedition type pack. It does ride like a hug. My new pack, which I have chosen a new pack, which I'll do in another video, does not ride like a hug. I'm going to do my best to try to get it to a point where it's as close to riding like a hug as I can get it. So anyway, that was the experience, and I felt like it really just solidified what the decisions I had made, and I pretty much have all my gear. I've decided on a pair of shoes, which I'll get into when I do the pack and the equipment, my final equipment video. And so yeah, so that's it. So thank you so much for joining me on this journey. Thanks for the 1,000 subscribers that are following along with me. I'm so excited, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.